إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد عباد الله اعلموا أن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة كل بدعة ضلالة كل ضلالة في النار. As you saw on the poster, the theme of the talk is a Muslim family and the challenges that they're facing in the West. And inshallah, we will break it in three different parts. The challenge that we're facing as a society, the responsibility of the parents, the role of the youth.
Bismillah. Yoborko ilmaha haysta waxa la yiri qorofba qolal baa jira gadaal TV-gina uu ku jiro oo si fiican uga daawanaysan uga maqlaysaan marka si uu qolku uu kuwayt u noqdo xagga taga Allah idin barakeeyo jazakumullahu khayran qofka aan garan codka luqada ka hadaya garanayna ka hawshan.
So we will be inshallah dividing into three parts as I said. First of the three is the challenge that we faced when we came to the West. From looking at the faces of the people that are sitting right in front of me, I can tell most of you, you're from a certain part of the world. And I guarantee you, when you came here, you had the intention of going back. You had the intention of just staying here for a period of time, and then when everything is settled down, wherever you came from, you had the intention of going back. And in your mindset, you were not ready to settle down here. And by the way, when I come to the city of Birmingham, every time that I come to the city, I feel like that I came to a Muslim country. In comparison where we live in Canada, we have very limited masajid. Keep in mind, Canada is the second largest country in the world. And the number of Muslims in Canada is almost 1 million people. And we all concentrated in one city, the city of Toronto. So when you travel outside that city, you really don't see much of Islam, al-ma'alim al-Islamiyya. You don't see masajid. You hardly see sisters with hijab. You hardly see brothers with beard and wearing outfit that indicate that they came from Muslim country. You hardly see Islamic schools. You hardly see children, little girls playing around while they're wearing their hijab. Now I'm saying this while I'm in this city of Birmingham, where you consider to be a Muslim country in comparison to what I came from. Yet the challenge that we faced when we came here, we came to a country that we don't know. I'm talking about outside of Muslim world, especially the Western societies. We came to a country that we barely know the culture of the people. We barely understood why that a lot of these countries, they left their country, a lot of people from these countries, they left their homeland and they went to Africa. And they went to South America. And they went to different parts of Asia to spread their own faith. Most of the Muslim countries, like Kenya, Muslim, or I say majority, where Muslims were at one point were majority, they nowadays no longer majority. Kenya, for once, there was a lot of Muslims. But even in small villages in Kenya, now people are turning into Christianity. Philippines, at one point, we had over 12 million Muslims. But people traveled from here to spread their word, to spread their religion. And now you have a very small minority as a Muslim community. You go to Uganda, you see the condition of the Muslims. You go to different parts of Muslim world and you realize the people of the West left their own country to spread their own religion elsewhere. Why? Because the people of the West, majority of them did not want religion in their lives. And then we came. Muslims came to a country that everything should be secular. The education should be stripped away from religion. The state should be separated from the church. You're not allowed to talk about religion at the place of work, at least in Canada. You cannot bring the subject of faith at your workplace. In schools, it is taboo. It is looked upon if anybody speaks about religion other than the classes that the children, the youth are taking. In the society, religion is not welcome where we are right at this country. In these countries, I should say. So we came and we thought we are safe and our children also would be safe. We thought that since I know my deen, my children would also inherit my faith by default. They would inherit my faith by default. And they will never deviate from the path that I paved for them. And it will be no challenge for me to transmit my faith to my children. That is the perception, was the assumption, and that is what we thought it would take place. But lately, we're realizing that the fruit of what we never anticipated is coming to the surface. It shows that our own children nowadays are deterring away, are walking away from the deen of Islam. I know for a fact, if it's not in your household, you know someone that is close to you in their household, the children walking and living from the back door. In the city of Oslo, I spoke about the title, Why Our Muslim Youth Leaving Islam. Why? And I presented the fact that in 2014 a study was conducted. And the study showed that 23%, keep in mind, 23% of non-Muslims are coming to Islam. We should say Allahu Akbar. 23% of the non-Muslims coming to embrace the deen of Islam, the beautiful religion of Islam. And we go around and we say to everybody, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the West. And we brag about it. But the same study showed also 23% of Muslim youth are leaving their deen. Not 3%, not 5%, not 10%, but 23% of Muslim youth leaving Islam. The same study was repeated in 2017, only 3 years after. And it showed that 24% of Muslims are leaving their deen. And I will quote and underline this as many times as I can. I am not talking about the drug dealers. I am not talking about the Muslims who do not practice Islam, yet they claim that they're Muslims, Muslim by birth. I am not talking about the criminals. I am not talking about the drug dealers. I'm talking about the best of Muslim youth that now leaving Islam. The question that you should ask yourself is why? Why our young men and women who are educated in this society, why are they leaving Islam? Because the society nourishes them more than we as parents nourish our children in their faith. They are more exposed to the society. They watch TV, they watch shows, they listen to music, they have classmates, they have friends, they have colleagues, they have teammates if they're involved in sports, and those would definitely have more influence on them than you and I coming at night to the house assuming that your boy and your son or your daughter are perfectly Muslims. So we came to a country that is inviting. It was, subhanAllah, it was 2005. And I always say 2005. And I was long time ago, 2005. And I'm sitting in a university when I was one of the chaplains. So we have Christian chaplains, we have Jew chaplain. I was one of them. And then we were talking about how our youth, our Muslim youth, they're holding on to their deen. And I say to the preachers, and I say to the people sitting with me on the same table, I still remember and I still remember what time was it, lunchtime, and we were supposed to be to get together once a month to update about what is happening with the youth in the city of Calgary. So I told them, alhamdulillah, our youth are doing well. They study Quran. If they don't go every day, at least they're safe for Saturdays and Sundays. They come to the masjid. We bring them 5 times a day to the masjid. We make sure children come to the masjid for Jum'ah. And then I still remember Chinese Catholic priest. He said, Imam Saad, do your children go to our schools? I said yes. He said, then they are ours. They are ours. He was so confident. I was offended, definitely offended by the statement. I thought I was disrespected. But the man did his homework. I was going by my feelings, but he was going by data, information, studies, and research that was done concerning Muslim youth. I was going about through just what I felt, but he had facts. And now every time that a young lady calls me, or a mother calls me about her son, or father brings his daughter to the masjid and says, Imam Saad, this child is leaving the deen of Allah, talk to him. I remember that statement because that man did his homework and I didn't. I thought you will remain Muslim by default. You will remain in the deen of Allah by default. You will remain as, by default. But it's not. So as a society, before we get to the parent, what we need to do is we need to wake up. We need to restructure ourselves. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. One thing that we have to give to the non-Muslims is they do their work. They do their homework and they research. And then they act accordingly, subhanAllah. Us, by default, by fluke, by coincidence, we move on. But they study. They study and they say, how can I make that little boy non-Muslim? And they said, and I was reading, and I told, especially the Somali community, I told you many, many times, I told you what United Church wrote. I'm not discriminating, but they did everything with every race. But I told you what they wrote in 1949 almost, how to make Somalis Christian, how to convert Muslim Somalis into Christianity. And the studies came and they said, wait a second, we're dealing with a nation, we're dealing with the Somalis, one country in the world that is 100% Muslim, 100% same language, 100% Sunni, 100% one madhab, Shafi'iyah. How can we make them Christian? The Italians came, they could not convert Somali Muslim to Christianity. British came, they did not succeed. The French came, they did not succeed. And they said the only way we can turn them into Christianity is by bringing them out of their homes. You thought, oh, the United Kingdom, you thought United States of America, you thought this country and that country, out of the goodness of their heart, they welcome the immigrants and they allow them to their country so they can shelter us? No. It was well studied, well planned. And not only, they went as detailed as what can we do when we bring the structure of family, of a Somali family, how can we dismantle that? And they said, first step, separate the father from the rest of the family. Separate the father figure from the rest of the family. So who left? Children and their mothers. And they said, well, according to our data, most of the mothers in that part of the world not educated, which was true. We were not, our sisters, they did not have masters back home. They did not have majority of them. They were not educated. They were excellent mothers. They were the backbone of the community. They were working at the same time, taking care of the children, but they were not educated. But the plan was executed well. And they said, when the father is out, then you have the children and the mother, and easily we can separate those two, and they did. And they did. And by the way, if you're Pakistani, they did the same thing to you. If you're Bengali, they did the same thing to you. If you are even, they said, how can we make the Saudis non-Muslim? How? It was done, it was well done, it's a research, well established. ما يمشون على البركة. It's كما الصعبان. Us, we just move on, mashallah. Every day will give you, hand you over to another day. But these people, they did well. So what we need to do as Muslim families in the West, we need to restructure everything. We need to understand how these young people, how their emotions, how their mental status, how their feelings was penetrated successfully. We can no longer afford to have a beautiful masjid like Masjid al-Hikmah, but yet not have suitable plan, suitable structure for the youth. We can no longer do that. The imams, the shuyukh, the hufar, muallimin. You can no longer rely on what you knew and how you studied Islam. You can no longer do that. You can no longer afford that. You have to understand how they talk to this kid. You have to understand how come this little boy who loves, yani subhanallah. One of the saddest thing was a young lady, 16 years old girl. 16 years old girl. And she was wearing hijab. She come into the masjid with her friends, Quran, mal'ama, as we say. You know, but later on she went and she took this course in his school called World Religion. Different religions and so on. And then she comes back. And after a while, and of course we very good keeping things taboo, because you don't want your neighbor to know your business. You don't want anyone to know your child has doubts, so you keep it suppressing. You keep that under the sand until no longer is contained, and then you come running. يعني لما وقع الفأس في الرأس, when everything was done, you say, Shaykh, I want you to cure this child. The child's brain is being consumed already. It's too late. The virus already took over. So this young lady, she said, Imam, and she looked at me and she said, look at my father. Look at my father. And I see a respectful man, nice beard, red little beard, and with the henna, tabarakallah. And she said, look at him. Look the way he dressed. And she said, look at my mother. Look at the way she's dressed. Look the length of her jilbab. Look the way she has her hijab. She comes to my school like that. He comes to school like this. This is the young lady arguing with me, trying to express her feelings towards the situation. She said, they come to my school and I love them. And I'm proud of them. And I accept them the way they are. They can't speak good English. They call them fob. They are fobs. You know. But I love them and accept them. And then she said, then, Ya Imam, why would my parents not accept me for my choices, for what I chose? I believe there's no God. I believe there's no God, and my parents should respect that. See, so you ask yourself, where were you as a parent when your child reached that level that she already analyzed, she already concluded, she had her argument, she can speak freely and proudly of what she believes in? Where were you? Where was the Quran teacher? Where was the muallim? Where was the Islamic study teacher? Where was he? Where was he? Where was he? So what we need to do as society in the West, we gotta reshift everything. We gotta rethink everything. We gotta reapproach our way of teaching Islam to our children. How many of the imam really study human psychology? How many of the imam really has a degree in counseling? How many, the shuyukh of the masajid, the khatibs, have degrees of how to deal with youth issues? Not too many of us. Not too many of us. And that is why the children no longer come into the masjid asking for advice, seeking for help, because the approach is completely different. She goes to school counseling, we call counselors back home in Canada, and the teacher will talk to them in a nice way, or the counselor will talk to them, convince them, hey, this is your life, it's no longer your parents' life, you're free, you live in Canada, you live in the States, you live in this country, this is your choice. You want to worship God, that's up to you. You don't want to accept that, it's also up to you. And the boy and the child thinks, wow, this person knows how I feel. This person knows what I'm thinking. So I would say to the teachers and the instructors and the people who's handling children to rethink of the way that he used to think about teaching children. And I want to say, the way that you teach children has a lot to do with the way that they turn out. How many of you met ex-Muslim who left Islam because of the Quran teacher? I met more than one. I met more than one. How many of you met a Muslim, a young lady, who left Islam because of the mu'allimeen and the structure of the community in terms of how they were taught? I met many. So my nasiha to you is, let us rethink the way. Now, the other thing that I ask my teachers and my administrations of the masajid, that I respect any child to become hafid ala al-ayn wal-ras. I love that. I want our children to be hufat. I want all of them to learn the deen, but I want them also to understand. Allah said, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. Hi, ya ikhwan. Did he say, وَيُحَفِّظُهُم? Yes, it is part of that. But you have to understand, for the child to memorize whole Quran yet not understanding, you did not equip your child the tools to defend his faith. You just gave him something to memorize. They memorize al-Bayquniyya, Jameel. They memorize Surah Thalatha, Jameel. But do they understand it? It's another thing. The Messenger of Allah said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ حَفِظَ الْقُرْآنِ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. So their children, before we ask them to memorize, while we ask them to memorize, we should also try to teach them, understand what they're memorizing. Then they can defend their faith. But if they just swallow ayat, not knowing the meaning of ayat, then it is very easy for them to be deviated. Wallahi ya ibadallah, we have a young man in one of the cities. We have a young man in one of the, can we ask Brother Shaykh to move forward? Jazakumullah khair. We have one of the young men in one of the cities. He's known Hafid G. Hafid G. What does it mean? He's a Hafid and he's a gangster. So he's Hafid G. That is his nickname from a city of Edmonton. His name is Hafid G. He is a gangster. He sells drugs. You know, he shoots people for a living. But he was a Hafid. His name is Hafid G. So, what happened to the Quran that young man memorized? What happened to that Quran that he was carrying? The Messenger of Allah, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. Famous hadith. So you need to teach the Quran to the children, but you also got to teach them the meaning of the Quran. You can memorize Tabbat Yada Abi Lahab wa Tab. But do they know Abu Lahab? Do they know Abi Lahab? Do they understand what he did to the Messenger of Allah? They can read Surah Al-Layl. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. But do they know why Allah praised Abu Bakr as-Siddiq at the end of that surah? وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُمْ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى إِلَّا بِابْتِغَاءِ وَجْهِ. Do they understand? No, they don't. But they memorized it. So what we need to do as community, we got to teach our children the meaning simultaneously. We got to teach them the seerah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We got to teach them the struggle of the Sahaba as a community. We cannot let them go just because they memorize the Bayquniyya. It's beautiful, Bayquniyya, beautiful. Bayquniyya is beautiful. But what does it mean? It's something else. The other thing that I want to talk about is the role of the parent. The role of the parent. Second thing. Ibadallah, Allah has said in the Quran, nothing is being missed from this Quran. وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا. Allah in the Quran is saying everything is being explained in the Quran. Everything, nothing is being missed from the book of Allah. Nothing. Nothing. So in the Quran, we have child who is righteous. We have a child who's also rebellious. But look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He explained that. When it comes to a righteous child, which one of us, none of us mainly would not have any issues, but Allah gave the example of Ibrahim and Ismail. Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim as-salam, Nabi, and a son who is also a Nabi. Both of them, وَلِلَّهِ الْحَمْدِ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. However, look, when that Salih father asked his Salih son what to do, the son immediately he obeyed. Ibrahim, he comes to his son, فَقَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. A righteous father with a righteous child. He says to him, "Oh my son, I see in my dream that I'm slaughtering you, so let me know what you think." Now I ask you this question. When a father asks his boy, "What do you think me killing you?" What do you anticipate for the son to respond with? If you go to your son and you say to him, "Son, I had a dream last night and I was killing you, slaughtering you. What do you think?" He's going to call the police on you. He's going to call the police and he's going to run away from the house. And he's going to go to Children's Society and he's going to report you. And you will be behind bar because that's abuse. If it's not physical, it's a verbal abuse. But look at the response. But before the response, imagine how much information that child observed. How much information was put into that child. How much effort was put into that child from the mother and the father both. How much taqwa, how much iman was placed in the heart of that child. Because your child is an investment. Your little boy, he is, your little girl, she is your best investment. So the natural response when you invest in your children is the same response of Ismail. قَالَ يَا أَبَتِ فَعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرْ. "Oh my father, do as you were told." He didn't say, you're an old man. You want to kill me just because you had a dream? Jibreel did not physically come to you and tell you to slaughter me, but you had a dream and you want to kill me for a dream? But the response tells how much in that child had and how much the parents invested in that child. Hidayah min Allah. So if you want your child to resist the temptation, to resist the struggle of this society, that you have to invest in that child and make that child righteous. Because when Allah gave you that child, he was not a drug dealer. He was not a shisha smoker. He was not, a beer, addict. He was not, weed, puff, none of that. He was none of that. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, every mawlud yulad al-fitra, he's born in a state of fitra. He was pure, she was pure, they were natural, they were clean, they were not corrupted, they were not tampered with, they were giving to you as pure as they could. And it is you and the society that either made that child righteous child or corrupted the child. And that's why Nabi yaqul فَأَبَوَاهُ, his parents, yuhawwidan, they make him Jew, Christian, whatever other faith. It is the parents, not the child. The Messenger of Allah said, it is the child that chooses. They say, it's the parents. The next example that Allah gave us in the Quran is a righteous father and a wicked son. 950 years the father was standing giving da'wah, day and night. Never took days off. Never said it's a Christmas time, it's a holiday season. I'm not gonna give da'wah. It is this event and that event. 950 years. Keep calling people to da'wah. But when the time came, his son who rejected his message was approached.